Hello, welcome back to Atlas Within. I'm Andres. Today we're going to be doing something a bit different. We're going to be doing a bit of a Q&A based on some questions received on the comments by a Mr. Lawrence Solon. So he's asked some interesting questions which I wanted to expand on and make a video about, just because I thought replying directly to him on the comments may not do it justice and wouldn't potentially give all the information that he's maybe looking for. So as such, we're just going to dive straight into it. So I've got the questions here. I mentioned obviously I'm doing 80% to 20% healthy to unhealthy eating. So 80% healthy eating, 20% unhealthy eating, which gives me bandwidth, leeway to eat anything I want to an extent. He's asked the first question with regards to that is where does fruit sit in all of this, considering that it potentially has high sugar, like for example he's mentioned grapes that he has a lot of, or mangoes. Grapes do definitely have quite a bit of sugar content. Mangoes, roughly speaking, quite high depending on how ripe you eat it, because obviously the more riper it gets, the more the carbs, I believe, will turn or become more glucose composition wise, will just become a bit more sugary, more glucose based. I don't know the exact scientific way of describing that, but essentially yes, the longer you leave fruit, the more sweet it becomes. Obviously the more ripe it is, but it means that those the nutrients are becoming a bit more glucose heavy. Question is, where do I put them? So I would say that's still a healthy option. I wouldn't say it's unhealthy, even though obviously yes, sugar content, especially if you're having a lot of it, does add up. However, what I will say, and a caveat, is unlike refined sugars, so sugar that you put in, let's say, your coffee, your tea, when you're making food, bakery, cakes, all that good stuff, that is pure sugar, essentially. Whereas fruit, you've got to bear in mind, if you're eating the full fruit, you're not just having the sugar content, you're also having fiber from and other nutrients and vitamins and whatnot from that. So in short, it is actually a much better option if you have a sweet tooth to have more fruit, because as mentioned, the fiber content will allow or will assist in the slow absorption of the sugar content, so you won't get high blood sugar spikes, which is once again much better than having refined sugars, which is pure sugar. It will hit the system as quickly as possible, and then that's when you get obviously these peaks of sugar in the bloodstream. So yeah, to answer the question, I would put it in the healthy side of things. As with any type of food, an excess is always going to be, or potentially lead to weight gain in certain cases, fat accumulation, and all these other things that, I'm not going to go into everything, but anything in excess, as they say, eventually could be bad, even with healthy foods. But with healthy foods, it takes a long time to get there. So I would say stick to it. If you do like your mangoes, you do like your grapes, stick to it. I think that's perfect. The recommendation is 5. To be honest, I think the recommendation these is more like 5 to 8 fruit vegetables per day, as opposed to the 5 a day. Probably because our diets are nutrient deficient, so I think we need more. So yeah, stick with it. I think that's a very good option, especially if you have a sweet tooth. Much better than having sugar, refined sugar, or any type of bakery pastry products, because unfortunately, whilst very tasty, not as healthy as fruit. In that particular sense. So second part of the question, he mentioned the high carb, low nutrients, and then he mentioned potato and bread, and my thoughts on that. So so first of all, potatoes actually pretty good in terms of carbs to nutrient, also for satiety. So what that means is fulfillment. It's actually got the best rating in the GI scale, which basically means that potatoes will make you feel full for longer. They're really good. So actually, the recommendation is to have potatoes if you like them, and if you have multiple recipes that you want to utilize them for, they're very good. They're actually, on the whole, quite a healthy option to have. So yeah, potato as an example, I would say, yeah, definitely have that. Once again, watching potentially intake. Obviously, if you're having several kilos of potatoes per day, you're going to feel the offsets in terms of potentially excess calories and, once again, weight gain and everything that happens when you have an excess. But if in moderation and part of your diet, part of your, well, not say diet, but part of your just your meals per day, per week, it's fine. I think potato is actually a very good option to go with, especially like I said, because it makes you feel full for longer, and it's a source of carbs, a source of energy if you're going to be doing workouts or you're just stocking up on carbs for later use. Yeah, I think it's a very good option. Bread, which you've also mentioned, or Lawrence has also mentioned, is still a good option. Not as good as potato, because obviously this is something that's been made. It's not natural occurring, right? It's not organic, shall we say, from that perspective. But if you have it in moderation as part of a balanced, like I said, meal, potentially maybe in the breakfast area, usually that's where you have bread, or maybe even later on. It depends on obviously how you like your bread. I would say it's still a viable option, especially if you go for the whole grain side versus the white version of it, because white bread or white food, shall we say, the more whiter, the more pale it is, the more likely it is that it has less nutrients than the original state. So what I'm saying is, for example, wholemeal bread, it's quite browny. It basically means it still has some nutrients in it. It has been refined, but you will still get something out of it. Whereas white bread, not as much. It's very good for quick carb intake, because obviously the body's going to absorb that quite quickly. If you need some sort of energy really fast within like the next half an hour to an hour or so, potentially a viable option if you're going to be using that. Otherwise, if it's just literally to have as part of a meal and you're not really going to do much, I would stick with more like whole grain, wholemeal breads in that case. Hopefully the point comes across when you're looking at foods. If there are different versions of it, and one version is, let's say, slightly darker than paler version, so we say, it's very likely the darker one is going to be better. Obviously, do your research, just have a quick look and see what actually goes into those products, but that would be my recommendation. So bread, once again, it has its place. In moderation, you can have it as well, especially if it's wholemeal or whole grain. That will still give you some nutrients, so it's not like empty calories essentially. Moving on to the next question. So chocolate protein bars or shake. So interesting, you mentioned chocolate. I guess that's the taste side of things. Anything protein based, or when it comes to protein powders, protein bars, protein flapjacks, protein, what else do they have? I feel like there's many like protein liquids that you can have. You can buy these, obviously liquids add like 20 grams of protein. They're like protein, I guess they're protein shakes, to be honest. They're just ready made. All of these products have their place. So they're very, very useful if you are finding it hard to get the adequate amount of protein per day in your diet, essentially, or in the time you have to eat. As an example, if you were to try and get all your protein, let's say you have 5 meals a day, let's say 4 or 5 meals a day, and each meal you need to get about 30 grams of protein, roughly speaking. That's what is generally recommended, but anyway, 30 grams of protein, 5 meals a day. But let's say you're only able to cook and eat around 3 of those meals, so you're missing out on another 60 grams of protein, basically 2 meals worth. That's where protein shakes and protein bars come into play, because obviously a shake, you can have one that has, for example, 40 grams. I actually take one that has 40 grams in one sitting, and then a protein bar can easily have 20 grams of protein as well, and there you have it. There's just 60 grams, and they're very easy alternatives to have to just having a well-rounded meal plan. Obviously, ideally you want to get your protein from food sources, because they're just more organic, they're much better for you, they're probably more complete proteins in some cases. But if the time doesn't permit, if it's really hard for you to get all the grams of protein, maybe you just can't stomach 5 meals a day, 3 meals is as much as you can take, and you really can only take maybe a snack or a shake, then yep, perfectly viable options. I would take them, yeah, if that is something that will help you. And as they say, they call these supplements, right? Because they're meant to supplement along with your meals. I take a protein shake every now and again if I feel like I've not had enough protein per day. I'm not really tracking my protein intake or carbs or any of the macronutrients, micronutrients, or calories at the moment, as mentioned before. But the point is, if I feel I need to get extra protein, then my go-to protein shake. Easy enough. I know what's in it. I can easily make it, have it, and then yeah, I've topped up. So yeah, I would say those are good options. Definitely, if chocolate flavored bars or shakes are what you like, by all means go for it. Or if you prefer another flavor, another variation, go for it. But yeah, that's my take on protein powders and bars. And the last question mentioned is, why not 100%? So 100%, yeah, why not, right? If you can do 100%, go for it. So 100% being 100% healthy. So basically cutting out all unhealthy foods that essentially don't bring any nutrients, don't really bring any macros or micronutrients to your diet. They're basically just excess calories that you don't need. Why don't I do it? Because I don't think I could stick to that. I've tried it, probably tried it for like a week, and it just wasn't for me. And the thing is, I'm not doing a crash diet. I'm not trying to make incredible progress or incredible changes in the 90 days I'm currently doing this journey. My goal is to lose some weight. I don't foresee that after losing the target weight, I'm going to look incredible. It's going to be progress in the right direction. But the idea is, once that happens, once I get to that goal, I want to keep going. And the easiest thing for me to do is to have a ratio or a meal plan or a logic or whatever you want to call it that I can follow, not just for 90 days, but for the foreseeable future with no end date. And for me, 80-20 is a good balance. What I will say is, obviously it's not perfect. It really relies on me to be strict. I haven't been strict on all occasions, but that's fine. Room for improvement, things I'm working on. And yeah, honestly, 80-20% for me, so 80% healthy, 20% unhealthy is the perfect balance for me. You can do, once again, 100% if you want to. Just think about why you want to do 100%. Is it something you want to do long term? If something you want to do short term, by all means do it. And then potentially after that, you adjust the ratio. Or you choose a ratio that you just want to get comfortable with now, start implementing it into your current plan, and then you just keep doing it. And then maybe you can tweak it as well. I mean, none of this is set in stone. This isn't something that's you've got to do, otherwise you're not going to get results kind of thing. This is literally what works for you. Obviously with the intention that you have more healthy than unhealthy eating. I think I mentioned it before, ideally probably more than 70%, I would say I'd recommend, so 70 to 30% healthy eating. I haven't, done any analysis on how much that equates to, but once again, the logic is it's more healthy than unhealthy. And this is all on you. This is about what works for you, what do you want to do. If you do want to get quick changes, then 100% I think is the best way to do that. That's going to give you the optimum amount of progress, fat loss, muscle gain potentially, depending on what you're doing with the food in general. But yeah, this is all about what works for you. What do you want to do? What efforts are you willing to put in? What are you willing to sacrifice at this point? And then in long term, where do you want to see yourself? So to answer the question, yeah, I'm not 100% because it just doesn't work for me, but it doesn't mean it won't work for you. If it's something you want to do, by all means go ahead and do it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I actually follow a few people online, as you would imagine, fitness wise, and they pretty much eat healthy. There's very little, if anything, that's unhealthy in that, and it works for them and they look great. But I'm not that's not my goal, at least not at the moment. So yeah, mine is more of an 80-20. And that is all the questions. So hopefully that's answered all your questions, Lawrence. Honestly, do leave a comment if you do want more information, if you want me to expand on anything. And I'm hoping that anyone else watching this has found that kind of useful, at least answering those questions, to give you a bit of an understanding of, you know, my take on these particular topics, these particular questions regarding nutrition. And once again, obviously, if you've got any questions you want me to answer, by all means, do leave a comment and I'll be happy to read through them. And if it's something that I'd love to expand on, give you a bit more of an insight, I'll probably just put it in a video similar to this one. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.